of country music, Patty Loveless. She was born Patricia Lee Ramey on a January day in Pikeville, Kentucky. She would grow up to be admired, respected, and very well loved, not only by her family and friends, but she would use music to touch the hearts of countless people she'd never even meet. One can only imagine that music was a part of Patty's makeup from the time she was born. She began writing songs when she was just barely in her teens, finding her emotion deep down, with a maturity level that some adults never reach. She was even younger when she first started to perform. On the day of our interview, Patty had just gotten in from nearly 3 exhausting weeks on the road. She was tired, but very graciously let us into her life, first describing her hometown and growing up in small Pikeville, Kentucky.
Well, Pikeville, Kentucky is, it's not as small as some people think that it is. It's definitely a coal mining town. My father was a coal miner. Of course, he's no longer with us, but he worked in the coal mines for a period of 28 years. It's a little small town, a population of, I think, 5,000. It could be more than that now. It's very, very laid back, very low-key. Probably about the only entertainment that I can ever remember of seeing during the time of growing up. I was about 5 years old, and my father had taken us to a drive-in theater, which the name of the theater was Pollyanna Drive-In Theater. I think the sign still stands. And the first time I had the opportunity to really see live music was on top of the concession stand of that theater. During an intermission, and it was Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs playing. And that was a very magical moment for a 5-year-old kid.
It was the most fervent hope of John and Naomi Ramey to have a family, and that they did. Although money was scarce and times were hard, they raised 8 children with an abundance of love and attention for each one.
But it was out of, hard work and love, and that's what they always dreamed of back there, was having a family. And I don't think they really dreamed beyond that too much. My mother always dreamed of getting married and having children. And now that we're all grown, she feels like she doesn't have anything to do. Her hands feel empty right now. But back then, I learned from my mother and father both that, hard work does pay off.
As his grandfather and great-grandfathers before him, John Ramey began working in the coal mines of Kentucky when he was a teenager. And there he continued to make a living for his family.
But I remember when Daddy used to come home that he used to have, he was just covered black. It was just black soot all into his pores, his skin. And I know the first couple of houses that we had, we really didn't have bathrooms. So I remember Daddy boiling the water on the stove, and Mother would put up like blankets up around the windows and also the hall into the kitchen. And we'd put out a big tub, and Daddy would boil the water and put it into his tub. And there was some nights that Daddy used to have to put Tide detergent into the water just to scrub it out of his pores. And he was a very clean man, I always thought he smelled so good, and he really worked very, very hard.
When Patty was 10 years old, the family learned that John Ramey's heart was beginning to fail, and at his doctor's suggestion, they moved to Louisville, Kentucky, in order that he would get better medical treatment. Patty is still amazed at the pace her parents were able to keep for the sake of their family. She especially remembers the burdens her mother would bear lovingly during the cold winter months for the sake of her children.
And how she ever kept a house up like she did with all of us kids, I'll never know. I don't know where she got the energy. But she was always spotless. I do remember. But I remember sometimes about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, she would get up. And sometimes my dad would be coming in from the coal mines from working during the night even. And Mother, we used to have coal-burning fireplaces. I do remember in the very last house that we lived in, Well, of course, this is when I was 10. So Mother would go out to the cold house, which there was a cold house for when they put coal in to carry it in the buckets. And she would go out there. I know that sometimes snow would be up to her knees, and she'd go out and get the coal and bring it in and build fires before us kids would get up, say about 6 o'clock in the morning or 6:30 in the morning to go to school. But she made sure we had a warm house before any of us kids got up.
If my heart had windows, you'd see a heart full of love just for you. By your side, I'll stay till we're old and gray, reminiscing the moments we knew. If my heart had windows, you'd see a heart full of love just for you.
There was something rich and fulfilling that John and Naomi Ramey brought out in their children, something that they knew would get them through hard times and wonderfully enhance the good times. It was music. Patty's mother liked to sing, and her father loved bluegrass, and music was indeed a part of life. For Patty, it started deep in her heart. Music was hope and happiness and even friendship.
The first memory of music for me that I can truly remember is I remember that there was a song, Kitty Wells did it one time before, but there was someone else that recorded it, and I could not tell you her name, but it was a song called How Far Is Heaven. And it's a song about this little girl that her mother is trying to tell her that she's lost her father, and the little girl, she's telling the little girl, you know, your father's going to heaven, and the little girl wants to know how far that is because she wants to go visit. And the first time I ever heard this song, it was like I learned it in no time, and I was 5 years old and started singing it.
A couple of years later, the Rameys would travel to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where Patty's brother Wayne was stationed in the Army. There was a band playing there, and Naomi convinced them to let Patty's sister Dottie sing with them. She had a beautiful voice, reminding Patty of Patsy Cline. It was a key moment in Patty's life as she watched the performance. At a tender age, just 7 years old, she began to realize how deeply music can touch people.
And she got up and sung with the band, and all these guys were just mesmerized by her and her vocal, but it just amazed me, the attention that she got from them. It was like, you know, she was talking to all these people or by singing and communicating with these guys, and it just, I saw all this happiness on their face, these guys that, you know, were homesick and missing families, and what she did for them. And now as I look back on it, I really am proud to think that that was my sister up there singing and making these people feel that way. And after seeing her do that, I said, you know, I want to do that. I want to make people feel like that. And beyond that, I took a real interest in music, from even more so after that.
Singing was one thing, but performing for an audience, like her sister did, was quite another.
I was a little more shy. And I remember my mother saying that when people used to come over and visit, that I had a tendency to get over next to the refrigerator in the corner and just kind of get next to it and just kind of hang out in the kitchen and listen to conversations among my mother and her friends. And I used to like to just listen to people and learn from that. So I would run off into the kitchen, from the living room, off into the kitchen and sing as loud as I could so I wouldn't have to face those people. But I've gotten better at it these days.
As she got a little older, Patty began performing with her brother Roger, who would become a vital part of her career.
I remember the first experience that I ever had on a real stage. It was a little small jamboree, and it was in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was 12 years old. And my brother Roger, he had talked me into going to sing with him at that jamboree. And here again, I was like the scared kid, but I enjoyed singing. You know, I didn't think there was a lot of other things involved. But he got me up on stage and I started to sing. And I remember I felt this heat on my chest. So after I got through, of course, my sister claims that my right leg shook a lot. And I told her I was just into the music. But as I looked into the mirror after I came off stage, I had this red rash all over my chest. And